Okay, we're going to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool independent micro brand for you by the name of Winfield Watch Company. Now, they were founded back in 2019 by veteran and master scuba diver Mark B. Miller. And basically it was birthed from pretty much the combination of an active lifestyle and a very early curiosity with Seiko modding, which eventually evolved this project to grow into the adventure brand that we now know today. And a couple of cool points are that these are actually, well, every Winfield watch is actually regulated in 6 positions and pressure tested individually to 100 meters. And they also receive full QC checks. And this is pretty much all done at their shop in Ohio, which I thought was very, very cool. I'm always happy to support veteran owned brands, as well as anything where, yeah, some of the work is being done here in the good old US of A. So, and also it's not a gimmick. Like, the stuff is well done. There's definitely times where, the origin or where the final checking goes ends up being more of an idea of quality that doesn't necessarily equate to anything extra. I will say that this is something that's a piece that's been thoroughly gone over, so I can absolutely appreciate that. In terms of the type of watch, I consider this an everyday outdoor adventure watch. Some key common characteristics in design language: when you're looking for something that you can get out in the wilderness with and really enjoy, you're going to want something that's sporty, legible, tough, and very capable, which I think this model, the Mission Lead, really has their bases covered. And in terms of what this watch really is to them, it's their take on that GADA, or go anywhere, do anything watch, that's equally at home in the air, land, or at sea. These actually go for $435 direct from the brand, and I'm pretty impressed, guys. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, as you can see, pretty comprehensive packaging, and definitely fits that rugged field watch aesthetic really, really well. Let's move some of the stuff around. So you get a really cool registration card in terms of the, oh no, someone's gonna steal the number on here. Nah, we're good. In terms of your warranty and everything like that, which is, it's a 2-year transferable warranty, which is nice. And probably shouldn't be too much of a big deal, considering that, yeah, there's nothing in-house within here, so you can get this taken care of at a number of places in terms of servicing when the time comes. Now, it does come on this great 2-piece nylon NATO style strap, and it also does come with a very nice supple single pass style as well, also with the signed buckle and everything, which looks great. I actually enjoy it so much on this 2-piece strap that, funny enough, I'm not even gonna put it on there. It also comes with a little wipe cloth, and then this very nice canvas watch roll as well, as you can see here. And then it's on this side, nicely signed. You just wrap it up, and then you're good to go. Oh, you can put it through any spot, really. So if you were to go on the go with this, you're good. You also get a little wipe here, which we'll keep on camera because you guys know how sweaty my fingertips can get from time to time, so we'll use that to keep this thing smudge free. Now, looking at the dial, the case shape, obviously I think what comes to mind in terms of the case and bezel still wet, would you think maybe the Zen 104, but it definitely has a much different and more focused aesthetic in terms of it being really targeted on the functionality side and being more modern, and also combining a lot of those military elements in terms of still utilizing the countdown bezel, but having kind of an air-based style there for the hours, and then kind of a field style center, and then still having that nicely sloped 60-minute index there on the outer chapter ring. So combining a lot, but I think it all flows really well, and I can absolutely appreciate that. In terms of the specs on here, it's 41 millimeters in diameter, which is what it is it's advertised as. I actually got 40.5, so 40 and a half if I measure just the case, and then if I measure the just across the bezel, it's 42. So somebody marketing that as a 41, I think, is absolutely fair game. In terms of the full height here, I got it in at 13.1 millimeters thick, and then the lug to lug at 49.4. And you can see nicely drilled lugs. Everything's fully satinized. It's 316L surgical grade stainless steel, and then it does have that great matte bead blasted finish, which definitely speaks to the aesthetic in terms of, hey, this is no nonsense, definitely meant to be worn and used outdoors, and even in high duress. Now that crystal is something that is very impressive. It's flat and it is nearly invisible. You can see it almost feels like you can just reach in and touch that dial. But when I get to reflect some of the studio lights, right, you can see there's a bit of a blue hue, and that's because this is actually a double-sided AR coating, which make it very, very legible. In terms of the durability of the outer AR coating, I'm not having any issues with it yet, but I haven't had it super long by any means. Now, in terms of the bezel, it's, of course, you can see it's a countdown bezel, but it has 120 clicks, unidirectional, very tactile, very, very clicky, maybe just a tad stiffer than I would prefer. But again, this isn't a dive watch traditionally. This is meant to be a countdown timer. So for those of you that haven't used a countdown timer before, instead of it reading 5, 10, 15, 20, etc., it goes the other way around so that you could do a countdown. So let's say you need to make sure something's done in an hour. You'd set it there, and then in an hour, when it comes back around, you'd be good. Or let's say you need it done in, 45 minutes. You're gonna go 45 minutes, and then when it elapses back here, then it's been 45 minutes. If you need to time something half an hour, just visuals, that makes it a little easier. You guys can see. Well, actually, another click. Half an hour. Boom. So very useful from that perspective. Of course, instead of timing something up to see how long it takes, when you're counting down to make sure that you meet a certain time, it's very helpful. So if you have a call to make, if you have to be out of parking at a certain time, it can be used for various reasons, and I think is very intuitive to use, although maybe if you haven't used one before, you just never had it explained to you. So you do also get a screw down crown, which is great. And then inside you're getting a Seiko Instruments NH35, which I was happy about. I know this is a no date style dial, and there is a ghost position, but honestly I find for the most part the NH38, which would be a no date variant, to have a little bit of a mushier crown action. So when this actually pulls out and hacks and re-engages, for me it just feels smoother than an NH38. So I'm happy to have a ghost position in exchange for that little refinement in terms of the way that it feels during my tactile engagement with the watch. Now it is satin etched, satin brushed, and then it does have some etching, which is nice. And then of course it is a little bit of an offset compared to the rest of the nicely satinized bead blast finish here, and then you're also getting a brushed finish, so that kind of ties into the case back there. I think it looks really nice. It has this very serious kind of militaristic look to it, and you can see that it does combine a lot of different kind of styles here. It really hits for me that air, land, and sea vibe. You're getting a little bit of everything, and I like that it feels really balanced still and doesn't feel like it's cramming too much in there. Now into the dial details, you're getting this cool two-tone matte dial. You're going to get that black inner circle ring, which is going to have the 24-hour scale, which is loomed. And then outside of that, you're going to get this gray outer ring with a 12-hour scale, which is also loomed. And then you get that nicely sloped 60-minute chapter ring, to even add a little splash of sports in there. And then you also get these nicely painted kind of mill sub style handset that are also loomed really nice and brightly. The loom here is C3 Swiss Super Luminova, and you're getting 6 layers of it, so it's nice and punchy. And you can even see in terms of the execution there, it has some depth to it, which is really impressive. Very cool. So, all right. Now we're at water resistance. It has water resistance to 100 meters or 330 feet, which, some of you thinking, well, that's not really like a dive watch, but 100 meters is definitely, especially with a screw down crown, is really all you need. Most recreational diving is going to be anywhere from 30 to 40 meters, so you'd be definitely all good from that perspective. And another nice thing is these are all individually pressure tested, so every single case gets pressure tested versus bigger manufacturers are going to be pressure testing in batches, and they're going to spot check, right? So your own watch that might be great and have a great depth rating might have never even been pressure tested, and there could be a seal, there could be any type of defect or something that is weaker within the watch that you don't get that extra peace of mind for. So I can appreciate that, and it's definitely one of the benefits that come with that small batch mentality, as well as timing it within 6 positions. Although they don't guarantee any type of parameters, it's definitely nice to know that they went through the trouble. And I think for me, this has been keeping great time thus far. Again, take that with a grain of salt. I haven't had the watch for a very long time, and I tend to go through quite a large rotation in my daily and weekly wear anyway. 20 millimeter lugs, which make it very versatile from a strap change perspective. Also, having the drilled lugs make it very easy to change the straps. You do get this nice 2-piece action here, and then there was of course a nice green 1-piece kind of dual pass, more traditional NATO style strap, which is also included. But with all that said, let's go ahead and get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. All right, guys, as you can see on my 7 1/4 to 7.5 inch wrist, this wears really well. I like that kind of sector style dial that is broken down the information on the dial, so it doesn't seem too expansive or anything. Not that the size is very large by any means, but of course the closer I get to the lens, you're going to get more distortion, and it's going to seem a little bit more oversized. You do get some nice details, but in actuality, it's a nice look, guys. Like, it's not oversized, not undersized. It's just a full-sized sports watch here, and with definitely those aesthetics that make you think something more rugged and tool-like. So very cool. You can see it lays on the wrist quite well. It doesn't hug anything special or spectacular, but it doesn't sit like a high top, or anything. It just, it lays nice and flat. So I can appreciate that, and I do enjoy this 2-piece strap. I think it has a nice feel and a nice aesthetic as well, and it's great, of course, during the summer months when maybe you don't want to have a steel bracelet on or leather or anything like that. It just feels very comfortable as well. So very cool. And then of course very accessible, I'd say, in terms of engaging with the bezel. Again, a little stiffer, a little bit more gritty, but definitely, not targeting any type of luxury feel or anything like that, but in terms of using it physically and engaging with it, it works really, really well. Yeah, and again, I kind of recommend coming from the the 12 and the 6, because you just get a little bit more purchase with your fingers, a little bit more clearance, versus if you were to try to come at it from another angle. So I do like it from right here to actuate. So with that said, let's actually get this back off the wrist, laid out for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. as you can see, very nice, very well loomed, very legible, great orientation in terms of figuring out where 12 o'clock is. And you even do get a nice little surprise there to see the dial branding and the name brand also loomed, which I think is a nice, fun little touch. But one thing I really like to work in to these Lume Shots is low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to be coming in and out of a building, walking underneath an overhang, maybe walking underneath the shade of a tree, or just spending some time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these finishes, what these colors, what everything really renders like in less than optimal lighting. Maybe to even include some harsh lighting here, very high contrast where you would typically expose any types of production defects. But you can see that sandblasted finish, that bead blasted finish, that matte look to it, it just shines really well. It takes the light and holds it in a very clean and understated way that I can appreciate. The tone of the gray on the dial actually has a nice little visual match to it. I'd say it's has a little bit almost of a bluish cool tint to it, which gives it a nice little offset, making it not too matchy, but just matchy enough to where it just fits and looks at home and looks quite natural and organically designed. So very nice. So with that said, you guys can see still get it nice and dark, very legible, very legible. Cool. So closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, it wears really nice. I'd say it feels quite substantial and tough without feeling at all oversized, bulky, or cumbersome, which is something you're really going to consider if this is a watch you're going to take out with you to be active. And the nice thing is that it's meant to be treated that way, and it's tested as well to that effect. Now, in terms of model variants, there's also the Mission Lead Subdued, and for that you'll basically have a blacked out case and bezel, and then you would have it negative and reversed in terms of the index on that bezel. In terms of comparable models, of course, that bezel and case silhouette are very reminiscent of the German-made Zinn 104, but this definitely injects a more modern and more utilitarian overall aesthetic that feels more focused and purposeful, I think, than your average everyday type of watch under $500. So they have a nice little combination of giving you something where it's kind of a familiar case shape and profile. It doesn't feel too out there, but at the same time it's not giving you some direct homage or anything like that. There's definitely styling cues that are there, but I think that this does enough to really separate itself as its own thing, which is I think is key when you're creating a not only a product but a brand with several products that will fall underneath it. So for me, guys, the bottom line here is I think let me make sure I get this right, because I really like this watch. This is a brand that I've kept my eye on since their early quartz offerings, which you guys know I'm not crazy into quartz, but I'm really happy I was finally able to check out their line, especially with this very solid and capable automatic model. So this one is really cool. I dig it. And yeah, the owner, Mark, very cool first name. Has always been very kind and gracious on Instagram anytime I had any questions about the piece. And the minute I kind of saw this pop in my feed again and again and again, and then I had to ask about the automatic model, and I actually ordered a little strap compass that he was stocking in his web store. And it was cool, and he was just like, yeah, I'll throw one of the watches in there, you can check it out. So I appreciate him sending this piece over so I could share it with you guys, because I think a lot of you will like this. It definitely speaks to that that military-esque aesthetic, that tactical. I think it definitely has a great look, and I look forward to seeing what they do next and how many more variations and iterations that they'll do and spin off of some very cool, I think, cornerstones in terms of their design ethos thus far. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.